What's up, people? Welcome back to Chris Chats Comics. My name is Chris Gonzalez, and I'm back again for another episode of Trade Talk Tuesdays. And this is the series where I highlight either one or a couple collected editions that recently came out, or some that are in my collection. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a trade paperback. It can be like a hardcover or an OGN, an original graphic novel. But anyway, this week I'm going to be going over Absolute Batman Volume 2, and this is titled Abomination. And as always, I'm going to read the back excerpt. So, what is Arc M? As Bruce Wayne investigates the mysterious black site in the waters off Gotham, he reluctantly draws his friends into Batman's dangerous work and comes face to face with powerful new enemies. What is happening at this dark facility? What is Alfred's history with Bane, the villain who has arrived in Gotham City to protect Arc M's secrets? And what does it all have to do with the mysterious investor behind JK Industries? And this trade paperback, it collects Absolute Batman issues 7 through 14, and there are 2 arcs that are in this trade paperback. The first 2 issues 7 and 8, cover the arc's titled Absolute Zero, and that goes over the introduction of the absolute version of Mr. Freeze, and then the remaining issues are the Abomination arc, which goes into the introduction of the absolute version of Bane. And yeah, based on Nick Dragotta's designs, Bane's a big boy, and he's, considering the absolute version of Batman's already a big boy, I mean, it's crazy the proportions on this guy. But let's go ahead and get into it. So again, Scott Snyder is the writer. Nick Dragotta, he does the artwork for the Abomination arc, and then Marcos Martin, he does the artwork for issues 7 and 8, and Clayman, he does the artwork for issue number 11, and Frank Martin is the main colorist, and Munsa Vincente, he's the colorist for issue 7 and 8, and Ivan Placencia, and I apologize, Ivan, if I mispronounce your last name. He does the coloring for issue number 11, and Clayton Cowles is the letterer. So let's go ahead and begin again. Issue 7 again is the and issue 8, they're the Mr. Freeze arc. So it starts off with flashback in it starts in Tanzania. They're in some type of rainforest. Victor Freeze, he's with his father, and he's actually Victor Jr., and this is his father's actually Victor Sr. And they were, I guess, stationed in Tanzania, but they have to go to some type of lands that, you know, has a bunch of glaciers, and Junior, he just didn't want to go, and he's questioning his father, why are we going? But yeah, the Absolute Zero is the name of the arc, and the colors really pop, and they stood out for me. Vicente did the coloring for Marcos Martin's art, and I'm familiar with Marcos Martin. He did some fill-in work during Mark Waid's Daredevil run, and he also did the artwork for this Image series called Friday by Ed Brubaker, and I think Vicente also did the coloring as well. I'm waiting to get the hardcover. Should be getting it next week, but the colors really stood out. So the story begins where Bruce and his friends, you know, Oz, Harvey, Ed, they're visiting the memorial site for one of their friends, Matches Malone, and they're just reminiscing about Matches. But Bruce reveals that he was the last person to see Matches, and then it flashes back to a week prior, and, you know, after the Black Mask arc, there's still a lot of patrols out in Gotham because they're, you know, on the lookout for Batman, and this mysterious facility has popped up, and Bruce wants to look into it. And so in order to get into the facility, he reaches out to his old friend Matches Malone, and this is Matches right here, and he reaches out to him to try to get a fake ID so he can join the construction crew at the Arkham site. So, but they meet up, and Matches tells him like, hey, like, I wasn't able to get you ID, but I actually joined the crew myself. And he saw a lot of stuff, and Bruce is like, why? No, you didn't. Like, why did you join up? And he's like, it's just, he had to. Matches felt like he was compelled to, because he owed Bruce, he owed him a favor, and you find out why he owed him. But Bruce is, shocked. He didn't want Matches to get involved, and then Matches just tells him like there's a lot of stuff going on, and it's already because Bruce doesn't think this place is up and running, but it actually is. And Matches tells him like there's a bunch of shit going on in this facility, some dark stuff that the public doesn't know about. And then as Matches, is talking to him, something happens to Matches, and he gets killed by some type of virus or some bacterium, we don't know. But look at this, just the artwork is really great. But this panel in particular, showing Matches, like all the, it looks like blood is just pouring out of his pores, literally, and it's just really horrifying. And I really appreciated Martine's artwork. And so Matches dies, and again, the Bruce and his crew are just again going over, what's going on and how Bruce being Batman is affecting their lives now. And Bruce, he's trying to push his friends away because he doesn't want them to get involved, and he wants to protect them, but it's too late for that. So, I also appreciated the uses of blacks, the use of the color black. Again, the artwork is just showing everybody's profile. I really thought that was cool. I thought that was a cool aesthetic. And just look at the artwork. Colors, again, really pop out. So Bruce, he's investigating. He's, again, still looking in. He picked up Match's phone. He's looking, there's a video, and he was just looking into the Match's phone to see what's going on and investigating, trying to figure out what happened to Matches. And he, there's a connection to a company that's related to, that has connections to Arkham, and it's a company that's using a lot of power, and it's called V-Corps, and it's run by Dr. Victor Freeze. So he's looking into this V-Corps company, and he's infiltrating the company. And again, really great artwork. So he infiltrates the company, and he poses as a city engineer coming to do a checkup on this company. So enters the company, and I liked how this issue, it gives our first references to the absolute versions of Batman's Rogues Gallery. Let me go back here, like Kirk Langstrom, Pamela Isley, Hugo Strange, again, Victor Freeze. So I thought that was cool. Again, we haven't seen, and I think there's going to be the next upcoming arc is finally going to introduce us to the absolute version of Poison Ivy. So this issue number 7, just was laying the groundwork. So I thought that was really cool. So eventually Bruce meets up with Victor, and this is Victor Jr., and he's just telling him how the company, what about the company and what they do, and how they freeze people from, people who are dying of rare illnesses. So they put them into these like cryo states where they can, stay in this frozen until a cure is discovered. And so really creepy imagery, because this is apparently Victor and Nora Freeze, Victor Jr.'s parents. There are a lot of horror elements in the artwork, and I thought it was really cool. So Bruce, he's like, whoa, what have I gotten myself into? And eventually Victor reveals that, or he's, having this conversation with Bruce, and again, Victor Jr. just tells him how he himself was patient, and he also went through this cryotherapy by freezing himself because he had some type of rare disease, a disorder. And it's revealed that Victor Freeze is a monster himself. So the design just of this version of Mr. Freeze is just gnarly. And he takes Bruce because he reveals that he knows Bruce is up to something. So issue 7, and this is the last issue of the arc, starts off with Victor Freeze. He puts Bruce and he tries to freeze him. And the lettering by Clayton Cowles was really noticeable, and it stood out to me because if you can see here when he speaks, it's like in a black word bubble with blue font. I just thought that was really cool. It just added to the aesthetic of Freeze. And again, it goes back and forth with Bruce just trying to get his friends and trying to push his friends away, but again, the friends are they're in it as well. So they're telling him like, hey, like, we're in this with you. So as Bruce is being frozen, I just thought this image was really cool. I like the use of red and blue, and it just gives into it shows as Bruce is in agony, freezing. He just thinks about all his past traumas. And it's revealed that Matches felt guilty that he was at fault for Bruce's dad's death because he was the last child that Bruce's dad saved at the zoo. So he felt responsible, and that's why he tried to help Bruce. So Bruce, he eventually gets out of the mechanism of the containment pod that he was in. And cool, I love Martine's design of the Batman suit. So they get into a fight. Really cool action scenes. Very epic. And then Bruce, he's getting his butt kicked, and then Freeze, he unleashes all the people that were iced and in these like cryopods, and they essentially kind of turn into zombies, and they start attacking Bruce. And then Bruce, as he's fighting them, they're getting like torn apart. They're breaking down, and Bruce, he doesn't want to hurt them. So then again, just jumps back and forth with the memorial for Matches. So in order to prevent further collateral damage, Bruce, he jumps out of the building. He escapes. And so he doesn't defeat Mr. Freeze. But at the end, jumps back to the present, and Wayland, he's coming back from the memorial, and he gets kidnapped. Wayland gets kidnapped, so that was a great cliffhanger. And yeah, so we'll see if Mr. Freeze shows up in further arcs. But then we get into the Abomination arc, and that's where we get introduced to Bane. And then, so these two, so it starts off in a foreign country, and these two warring factions, they're trying to, create a peace treaty. And there's a reference to Kahndaq, and that's the home of Black Adam. But then Bane shows up, and this dude, he's just menacing from the get-go. He's like, hey, this peace treaty doesn't align, so who's gonna die? And we're gonna just continue the war between you guys. So Bane kills one of these guys. I guess his name is Omar, or I don't know what his name is, but he kills one of the leaders, and then they're continuing that war. So Abomination arc. So this image will come back into play, and so in the aftermath of Wayland getting kidnapped, Batman's just been on a tear through Gotham as he's trying to find out who took Wayland and who's responsible. And we get our first reference of Dick Grayson, and he's an EMT in this universe. If you can see right here, right there, that's him. That's him right there, that guy. Because Batman's beating up so many people that there's not enough space. But right here it mentions Dick Grayson. So in this universe, he is a EMT. And then Batman, he then reaches out to Barbara Gordon, who again is a cop, and he's trying to figure out, like, hey, where's my friend? And Barbara Gordon tells him, like, apparently he's at Arc M. And then so Bruce, he meets with Harvey, Alfred, Eddie, and Oz, and just going over a game plan on how they're going to rescue Wayland. And shit gets intense. And Bruce is upset at himself, and he's, he feels like he's responsible for Wayland's disappearance. And just flashbacks to, in this universe, Bruce and Selina are also in a relationship. And it just goes over the friendship with him and Wayland, and Wayland meets with Bruce to tell him that he has this fight booked up with this guy named, what's his name? Bibbo Babowski, and he's the champion. And he asks Bruce that he wants Bruce to train him for the fight. And then flash forward to the present. Bruce, he's going through an underwater, cavern to get into Arc M, and we really see how Bruce and Alfred's relationship further develops. Alfred, he's starting to care for Bruce, and he wants, Bruce to be safe. And we also, Alfred's narrating, and we get our first look at Slade Wilson, aka Deathstroke, and we learn that him and Alfred, they used to be friends, but I guess something happened where they became enemies, and Slade, he aligned himself with the Joker, and we find that out later on in the Arc M special one-shot that I went over in an episode of Single Issue Saturday, so you can check that out. So Bruce, he infiltrates Arc M, and this is where he first fights Absolute Bane. And very similar to like the Dark Knight Rises and the Nightfall storyline, where Bane beats the shit out of Batman, but just really epic fight. And Dragotta, just the way he illustrates Batman in this one particular panel right here, you can see the fear in his face, and as Bane uses the venom for the first time, and just look at that. Just look at that. just gnarly Bane looks. Very, very just muscles on top of muscles, and very cool design. And so next issue we start with, Bane. He's been captured. They're about to do experiments on him at Arkham, and issue number 10, I believe this is issue number 10, and this is, I think, my favorite issue of the arc. It just goes over Batman just being resourceful, and he's trying to escape. And I don't know what's in here. There's like an egg-shaped pod that you see in the background, and let me see. It says level. It says hell for an experiment. So I'm not sure what that. But as Batman's escape, or as Bruce is escaping, he goes through all these different areas where we get introduced to like Clayface. This is a version of Clayface, and then Bat comes across Bane again, and once again, Bane subdues him, beats the shit out of him, and then it just repeats the cycle, and it keeps flashing back and forth between the past and present. And in the past, Bruce is training with Wayland to prepare for his fight, and then Martha is just worried about Bruce's whereabouts because he's been gone. It's been an extended amount of time. And then again, Batman, he plays coy. He wants to make the doctors and the scientists doing these experiments on him make them feel like he's lost all hope, and so he's refusing to eat. So they're like had to inject like feeding tubes directly into his stomach, and he tricks him, and he uses his own teeth to beat the shit out of these doctors, and he uses those tubes that were connected to his stomach. He like made it so that his stomach acid would like project out, and I thought it's kind of dumb, but it just works. Again, there's a lot of stuff that's so crazy and out there that you wouldn't think that it would work, but it does. And I just compliment Scott Snyder for just making it flow. Again, I feel like this is the best writing Scott Snyder's ever done, and that's saying a lot because he's written a lot of Batman stories. But yeah, so it just keeps going. Bruce, he keeps trying to escape, and then he comes across what's it called? He comes across the area where they're holding Pamela Isley, aka Poison Ivy, but you don't see it. You don't see her yet, but I just thought that was cool, a nice reference to her. And again, flashes back to Selina, and just Selina's telling Bruce like, hey, like you got to be honest with Wayland. He can't win this fight, but Bruce just can't let himself disappoint Wayland. So, and again, Batman's been there for a long time now, months, trapped in here, and look at what they've done to him. And they're essentially testing him, and they want him to put on the suit. And eventually he does. And they come across an area where they're giving breadcrumbs into what we can look forward to as far as rogues in the future story arc. So it kind of gives Easter eggs to Man-Bat. But then again, he comes across Bane, and he just can't win against Bane right now. Bane just beats the fuck out of him. And then it's revealed that Wayland has been transformed into this lizard monster, and Dragotta's design for Killer Croc is just really gnarly, and you feel really bad for Wayland because he's been transformed into this monster. And look at this, very cool double page spread. So So yeah, then with Wayland's help, Batman escapes. So that was the end of issue 10, and I just thought that was one of my favorite issues of Absolute Batman so far. And then issue 11, it just essentially goes over the origin of Absolute Bane, and he was born on this island, Santa Prisa, and it's, you know, war trodden, and he was captured, and the artwork's by Clayman. I thought this was cool. Not my favorite issue of Absolute Batman, but I thought it was cool. And again, it just pretty much goes over how he became, you know, this war hero, and it's just, he was captured, and being captured by this enemy, he turned him into this brute, and his father was with him, and his father kept telling him like, oh, we'll be free, just, you know, look at the bird of Santa Prisa, just remind yourself that we'll be free one day. But he had been a war prisoner for like almost a decade, and when they finally liberate themselves, he uses the flag as the mask. So I thought that was pretty cool. But then as he got out, they go back to Santa Prisa, and they come across Joker, and the Joker makes a deal with Bane so Bane can work for him. And then eventually Bane kills his own father, which was gnarly. But then Alfred, he starts narrating. He's like, Bruce, I should have told you what you're getting yourself into. And so when I first read the single issue of this, I thought like this part of the story where Alfred's narrating and he's going over like, oh, Bane, he was gonna, you know, find you, and you know, I thought this was real. I thought this fight was real, but it's just a vision of what Alfred thought was gonna happen to Bruce if he came across Bane again, and it's just gnarly where Bane, he just beats the shit out of Batman, chops off his limbs, and it turns him into like a Bane version of Batman, which was nuts. Look at that. But this doesn't actually happen. This is what Bane wants. This is what Bane has been like traumatizing Batman and training, because Bane, he wants to retire. He wants to return home, and he wants Batman to be his replacement. But that's not what really happened. What really happened is Bane went after Bruce's friends to really hurt Bruce. He hurts his friends, and what happens to his friends is pretty devastating. So then we get to issue 12, where they're in the sewer, and Batman, he thanks Wayland for saving him, and then Wayland, he's essentially begging Bruce to kill him because the hunger, Bruce, it hurts too much. Please save me. And Bruce, he doesn't want to. He just can't bring himself to killing his friend, and it's just, this whole part was devastating. And Wayland tells him like, I should have left you in that place, as he runs away and goes back into the sewers. So I thought that was just an emotional gut punch. And then flashes back to Bruce and Selina. They get this new apartment, and again they're just discussing, you know, Wayland's fight with the guy, and flashes forward back to the present, where Bruce, he had been out for like 20 days, and he's just recovering from being just traumatized and experimented on at Arc M, and he visits his mother. And this was just a really emotional moment, and his mother, you know, because he had been gone for months, and his mother was just like, just hold me for a while. And then we get to another emotional part where Bruce, he visits his friends and he finds out that Bane just fucked them up completely. Like, this is what Bane did to Oz. And so eventually, we don't know yet, but there's hints that, like, Oz, Harvey, Ed, they're gonna become villains. So we'll see. They're getting hints of Snyder, he's giving hints about it, but we'll see what happens. And this is what happens to Harvey. And the colors by Frank Martin, like the colors right here, because Bane just essentially set half of Harvey's face on fire. So that just was really a striking visual. So, and Harvey's line at the end, he's just telling Bruce, he's telling him a story about this old cop, Glass, who told Bruce and Harvey and, you know, all the friends when they were younger that, well, he told Harvey that you need to get away from these losers because they'll just hold you down. And Harvey was just telling Bruce, like, Flass, he might have been right, man. And the last line that Harvey says, he's like, I only hate you half the time, just again referencing him becoming Two-Face. And I just thought that was, again, another emotional gut punch, because, you know, throughout the whole 2 arcs, we just been at 3 arcs right now that just been developing this friendship between, you know, Bruce, Harvey, Oz, Eddie, Selena. And just gotta give credit to Scott Snyder's writing, just making us feel just emotional and just feel what Bruce is feeling after discovering that he brought his friends into this. Like, he's the cause of his friends' pain. And just look at that, the design for the Riddler, really gnarly and horrifying. Again, bringing those horror elements. And I really thought the artwork by Dragotta was just amazing. And so we get to Bruce, he's in communication with the Red Hood gang, telling them to stand down. And then Bruce, again, he's over it. He's like, man, I'm the reason that my friends have been, you know, mutilated. And he's feeling it. Bruce is feeling it. And then something happens where their base gets infiltrated. They think it's Bane, but look at this. I thought this was a really cool image, them standing back to back. Alfred's got this machine gun here, and then really cool image. And then Alfred gets incapacitated. We don't know who. And then it's actually Selena. She's come back. And I thought this was cool reveal at the end. Cool. And then issue 13, it just goes over, you know, again, more insight into Bruce and Selena's relationship. Really sweet. And it's hinted that something had happened between the two where Bruce doesn't want anything to do with Selena. And I just like the banter that Alfred has with Selena. He doesn't trust her, and it's cool that in this panel he's like, this panel where Bruce was like, I don't need your advice, Selena, and you're leaving right the fuck now. And then it cuts to some sexy time, and because they love each other, and they're, you know, Bruce, Selena, she's just looking at Bruce's scars, and she asks Bruce, like, what did they do to you? And Bruce is like, is this really what you want to talk about, C? She's like, no. And then Bruce looks at her helmet, which is reminiscent of the gear that Black Mask had, and Bruce asks her, it looks like the gear Black Mask uses. And Selena's like, is that really what you want to talk about, Bruce? And he says no, and Bruce is like, want to go on a date? Again, another sweet moment. And then it cuts to this page of them going out together, and they're gonna meet up with the Red Hood gang, and they're seeking their help, which I thought was pretty cool scene. And it's revealed that the leader of the Red Hood gang is Harley Quinn. So the absolute version of Harley Quinn is the leader of the Red Hood gang. And right before this, because Bruce had been infused with venom in his system, so he kind of hulks out and he's trying to control it. And so I thought that was cool. So yeah, just again, and then look at this. They're preparing for the final battle. Bane is just like, look at that, just look at that image. They're just opening up his back and just putting all this machinery and all the venom souped up into him. And again, Bane, he's looking to retire and he wants Batman. He wants to do one final test and make Batman his successor. And then Batman, he essentially broadcasts all over the city that he's challenging Bane to a one-on-one fight, and at this arena, and shit's gonna go down. Selina's telling Bruce, just, hey, just whatever you do, don't use the venom. I've seen what it's done to people. I know Bane, and I know what he's done to our friends. And Batman's just like not trying to hear her. And then Selina leaves, and Alfred's like, don't let the door hit you. Nice humorous moments. And then Bruce, he's developing a game plan against the fight. So he's luring Killer Croc back. So that was it. And then we get to issue 14. It's pretty much the massive fight with Bane. And I had gone over this in one of my episodes of Single Issue Saturday. So if you want further thoughts on issue 14 in particular, you can go check that out. But yeah, it's just really crazy issue. Just look at some of the artwork. I won't go into all the details because again, they fight and it keeps cutting back and forth between the championship fight where Bruce and Selina had met with Carmine Falcone, who is, the backer of the champion, and Carmine wants Waylon to throw the fight, but Waylon doesn't want to do that, so he told Bruce to, hey, you can't be in my corner anymore. So again, it just cuts back and forth between the fight between Bane and the flashback of the boxing match or MMA match, whatever. But Nick Dragotta's artwork really shined in, and look at how just big Bane became, just souped up with the venom. And it's revealed in I think it was issue 10, where Bruce himself is 6'9" and he's over 400 pounds. So if he's 6'9" and Bane is like towering, Bane is like a Goliath, just towering over Bruce. It's like the artwork's so ridiculous, but it just works, man. It works. So just the final fight is just nuts, so crazy, epic. And Bane is like, he's not going down without a fight. And then Killer Croc, he gets involved and helps Bruce. Again, look at that, just the artwork. Dragotta, I mean, come on, man. Ever since, I loved his artwork since East of West is when I first got introduced to him, and then he did some work with Jonathan Hickman during his Fantastic Four run. So just Nick Dragotta is just, he's doing the best work of his career right now, and I'm glad people are just recognizing his genius. And look at this. So Batman, he just eventually gets the better hand of Bane, and he just uses his axe, just cuts right down his spine. And I like how in the dialogue he just is taunting Bane and just calling back to when he first fought Bane, because Bane was like, oh, you can't use your arms now, because again, or your legs. And I liked how Batman with his dialogue called back to that moment. So it's a full circle. So yeah, just look at this. So Bane, he's again goading Batman, like, use the venom, and it's revealed that he's not going to use the venom because with Eddie's help, he got all the venom out of him and he just used it on Bane, and it was too much for Bane to handle. Just look at that. Gnarly. So Bane essentially explodes and Batman wins. And everybody's happy because this is how it goes. He goes to Eddie, he's like, take it all out, take all the venom out. And yeah, that's how he won. And they dump some of Bane's remains into the ocean, and then Selina, she's on a plane somewhere, but she takes some of the venom. So what is her plans? We'll see how that comes into play in future arcs. So that was pretty much it. And then again at the last page, Joker is just an evil bastard and nukes Bane's home of Santa Prisa. So evil dude Joker. So that was pretty much it. That was Absolute Batman Volume 2, Abomination. A lot of comic fans and a lot of readers of the series would say that this is where the series got really good, and I can't agree more with that sentiment. And after reading this trade, I was like, yeah, Absolute Batman is easily one of the best comic series out right now. So if you haven't read it, I highly recommend get the first trade and get this trade. And yeah, it's just what Scott Snyder and Nick Dragotta and other Frank Martin, Clayton Cowles, what the whole team is doing. They're producing a instant classic. Like, this will go down as one of the best Batman stories of all time, and I truly believe that if Scott Snyder and the team continue with this quality, this will be remembered for a long time. And I'm already looking to get the omnibus when it comes out in like 5 years. So, but yeah, I highly recommend Absolute Batman Volume 2, Abomination. And yeah, that was it. So that's it. So next week, I'm going to be discussing Bug Wars, and this is from Image Comics, and this is by Jason Aaron, and the artist is Mahmud Asrar, Matthew Wilson on the colors, Becca Carey on lettering. So I'm going to be going over the first trade of Bug Wars, and then as a bonus, I'm going to be going over the one-shot Spider Witch special as well. So be on the lookout for that next week on the next episode of Trade Talk Tuesdays. And thank you again for those who are watching and who have been watching. I really appreciate it. And if you could like the video, share it, subscribe to the channel, I would really appreciate it. I'm trying to, my goal is to get to 1,000 subscribers, so I'm almost there, halfway. But yeah, anyway, that was it. Thanks again for watching. My name is Chris Gonzalez. This is Chris Chats Comics, and I'm out. Peace.